For this Collate discovery, I am joined by my fellow developer advocate here at Collate, Nick Acosta. How are you today, Nick?
Good, Shawn. Thanks for asking. How are you?
I'm doing fabulous. Winter is rapidly approaching. The days are shorter, they're colder. What will we do other than to continue our fabulous work with Collate and OpenMetadata?
Yeah, as good as time 80 to code for that's for sure.
So, you've been a busy bee lately. You've been jetting all over the world to do workshops and presentations. But one you did recently, I think it was in Ireland, was it? The JupyterCon?
Yeah, so there's been a number of different events, like you mentioned. So the one that I'm going to be showing today, we did as a workshop at PyCon in Ireland, and then
Wow.
as a presentation. So having people walk through these steps, and then just a presentation where it was more of a demo than a workshop in JupyterCon in San Diego. So if
Okay.
I'm keeping all of my dates in cities straight, that's how it worked out.
Well, excellent. And I saw what you did. I watched the video from your presentation, and I thought it was really cool. And I think it opens up the possibilities. And part of what we want to do when we have these discussions is, show people what's possible, to get them thinking maybe outside the box a little bit, realizing there's things that they can glue together. So you did something utilizing MCP, Jupyter, and open metadata in that case, but we're going to kind of show Collate and open metadata here. And I wanted you to share that knowledge with everybody here today.
Yeah, thank you. So AI tools are making it really easy to use it's making it even easier to use open metadata and Collate. So definitely wanted to share that, but then also been inspired by our community and some of our developers
Hmm.
to, like you mentioned, kind of reframe how I'm thinking and experiment there by not just leveraging AI for metadata management, but combining it with other tools. Right? Collate isn't the only service that has an MCP server. So if you
Yeah.
combine that with other tools in your data stack, you can have AI pushing from one service and pulling to the other through these MCP services or vice versa. It really starts to scale out your work and enable some creativity. Just trying to provide a quick and easy demonstration that you could do yourself within, open metadata or Collate, but then hopefully also gets your wheel spinning about some other hooks that you could use with MCP servers and bringing more things together.
Awesome. Well, let's do it, man.
Goose is an I like to think of it as like an AI broker. So you're able to pair a lot of different model types here. You'll see I'm using GPT-5 model, but you can use any of the providers that you see on my screen now and a bunch of the models that they have available to them, or set up a different model provider here.
Yeah. Okay.
Then you can pair those with MCP servers. So I have a number of different ones set up, one both open metadata and Collate. So we'll see both those in the demo. And then Data Layer is a startup that built out an MCP server to Jupyter. So we'll see that tool interact, like reading data, having an AI agent, having GPT read data from Collate, and then push it to write Python and execute Python in a notebook through this server.
Nice.
Yeah. So let's get to that. You can see as I was starting, I'm pairing GPT-5 with, we'll start with open metadata and Jupyter. So I can start with like a really simple question. How many tables are in this particular database? We'll have, as you saw on my screen, hook up to open metadata, hook up to Jupyter, be able to dig in and find those tables and see that there are 7 tables in my open metadata instance for this particular database.
Okay.
So I can scale that out and ask multiple different questions about multiple different databases. You can see that GPT will send out MCP calls for each of them.
Ah,
And
nice.
this is where I wanted to combine MCP servers.
Okay.
Yes, just a simple prompt that would be creating a new notebook, as you mentioned, was doing this for PyCon Ireland, but we can change this to maybe open metadata. So we'll have a new open metadata notebook and be able to build out a visualization with the information that GPT just gathered from open metadata.
Nice.
So here you can see those tools. It's creating a new notebook, inserting code that its GPT has prepared into a cell for this notebook, running that cell as well. So if I jump into my Jupyter Lab instance here, you can see 16 seconds ago, it created this new notebook where I have that information about the number of tables for each database.
Wow. It's really cool. I've gotten out of the habit of using Jupyter because I just don't need to use it anymore. But that's pretty nifty.
Yeah, so being able to have all of that code written yourself and execute, or not written yourself, written for you and executed there, has been pretty useful for me in being able to visualize this data. And you can think of Jupyter here as definitely something where you're able to create those notebooks, but then also like any data visualization tool, right, that has an MCP server, you could go
Yeah,
about creating the same sort of workflow.
I really like
If
that.
I think that that helps a little bit can see, like what's going on. But
Yeah,
for my open metadata instance, I just have one group of assets in there, one Postgres database. I would say for this particular use case, building out something where I'm getting the counts of tables for each database, I particularly think this is maybe too easy of a problem to solve that doesn't really necessitate GPT or Goose or these MCP servers. Just like ask Postgres directly, right? I
yeah,
think that that's pretty, but it gets a lot more involved as you scale out your Collate implementation. So here I have an environment with tens of thousands of assets across dozens of different services in
yeah,
the metadata sandbox. And that's really where you start to see these. I think it's just a little bit more useful the more your open metadata is built out.
yeah. I mean, the scale is what makes the difference. There's a point where it's simple to do it manually, but there's a point where it is not simple to do it manually.
Yeah, having AI do that repeated work for you is really where we're seeing. Was just talking to someone today, like that's where they want to stop that work yesterday, right? And then have AI take it over. So that's what we are doing here with Collate. It would just be a matter of turning that extension on back in Goose. And these are going to be the same setup, for both Collate and Open Metadata. And we have guides to walk you through how to get these set up.
Quick question. So, if open metadata and collate extensions are both enabled simultaneously, how do you direct it to what it's looking at?
Yeah, yeah. So that's a great question. And we have in these extensions, you'll see digging into this, you see this argument client ID. We have that different. This is how Goose knows that if it's collate here, it's wanting to reach out to collate. I have the same client ID as now open metadata here. So that's kind of a unique problem here with myself. Don't really see people managing both open metadata and collate at one time. But if
Yeah,
you are differentiating them between, you could see this as maybe like dev, test, and prod, right? You might have a
yeah,
developer version of Collate, a test version of Collate, and then a production version. Just like switching the client ID there would
yeah,
be able to have GPT like easily differentiate those two services.
makes sense.
And then I can just reference that in the prompts. So what is the count of all assets? Now I want to look at that sandbox, look at a lot more assets. So I'm just going to append this prompt with in Collate. Then it'll know to leverage Collate's MCP server.
Okay. So while that's executing, are you combining it? So when you do this, so it goes in Jupyter, is it using the results from the prior query to populate
Mhm.
Jupyter, or is it executing that query again and piping it?
I think that there's ways that you can kind of configure it to do either,
Okay.
or whatever your preference would be. I'm having, if you saw in this Python that it generated, it's just hard coding these values that it grabbed from a previous prompt.
Oh yeah.
You could just as easily have GPT,
Create a dynamic.
embedding it
Yeah,
and
dynamic
get it
connection there.
that
Okay.
line.
Okay. So we got over what 52,000 assets there.
Yeah. So in that Collate implementation, it's a lot more built out. We can ask it questions about of those 50,000 assets, how many of them are broken up into different tiers or have these particular classifications, things like that.
Hmm.
And then just like we saw previously with that open metadata notebook, repeating the same thing with the Jupyter MCP server. So now I'm going to be creating a second notebook. We'll have a couple of visualizations here. We'll have a breakdown of all the assets by their asset type, and
Okay.
then a breakdown by this particular classification. And this could be not just like what tiers do you have these assets in, or but which team owns them, what tags do they all have, right? Like whatever is available in your whatever you have prepared in your Collate instance.
Nice.
So we can see that just as the in the previous example, GPT has created a Jupyter notebook for me named
Hmm.
Collate. You can see that this just happened 6 seconds ago through our MCP server, where we have all of those assets broken down by asset type. You can
Yeah.
see it's mostly tables in our sandbox. So if I like comment that out and rerun it, that's a little bit like a fuller breakdown, excluding the tables, all the
Yeah.
different types of assets that you have available in Collate that you can track and monitor. And then for those assets that we have classified and broken down into tiers here with another visualization that again GPT created through that MCP server.
And it even tried to kind of match the color up.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so that's been exciting to see how it goes about in preparing these different visualizations. And I think it does the same thing with other BI tools in their MCP servers as well.
So that's pretty fascinating, pretty simple. I mean, setting up all those connections probably only takes, I don't know, 10 minutes with the MCP server, say 15. And then you can do this. I like it.
Yeah. Yeah, I found it really I've at least I've spent the bulk amount of my time just thinking about, all right, now with these two options available, how much work can I cut out? And I think that that's really where you're spending your time, is not in like configuring things, but what can I automate? What can I stop clicking through? Because I could have done this, I think, maybe without an AI agent and maybe just counted them all up or gone directly to the Postgres instance, as I was mentioning. But
Yeah.
doing so with an AI agent can really scale out this work. So hopefully that get some wheels spinning about not just what can we read from Collate, but you can also apply these as well, right? So I
Yeah.
have asset counts are like pretty low for my certifications based on the tens of thousands of assets we have here. So
Yeah.
maybe I can say to every chart, apply this type of classification, things like that. And that's really where you're starting to see a lot of the manual work that you would have to do in Collate or another tool, just kind of taken over by GPT through MCP servers.
Well, you're not just solving the problem for now, you're solving the problem for later as it scales. And I mean, we're all human. Something that's tedious, you're going to get to a point where it gets sloppy oftentimes because it's like, oh, I'm so over it. So this adds to, I guess, the reliability of the data because you're not having to contend with kind of human nature and frustration.
Yes, and then for all of the changes that I may be making in Collate with this MCP server, there's an activity feed in an asset log. For each asset, it has steps of
Hmm.
when something was changed, who changed it. So you can always audit and roll back any sort of changes as you're scaling things out
Okay.
significantly with these MCP servers. Always really easy to roll back any of the changes that an agent may make.
Well, that is fabulous. I love that out of the box thinking. We're going to do another one of these the next time you get out of your box and do another creative little thingy.
Yeah, always welcome new use cases as well. Been heavily influenced. Like these examples all come from our community of developers. So
Yeah.
always looking for things to do and showcase to everyone. So please let me know if there's anything cool you've been doing in a similar or completely different way with AI.
Well, it's a good time to point out the Open Metadata Slack is a fabulous place for those conversations to take place.
Absolutely.
All right, we'll have all relevant links to some of the things that we talked about in the description. And until next time, Nick, thank you so much.
Thanks, Shawn.